CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? Me and my sister went on a circus. We found the dark web. On the circus, my sister disappeared. A week later, there was a video on the dark web from my sister laughing. Alright, so this happened like 8 months ago. I'm still not totally over it, honestly. My name's Nate, I'm 17, and I live in a pretty boring town about 30 minutes outside Chicago. Not exactly the sticks, but definitely not a city vibe either. We got the usual stuff. A rundown McDonald's everyone still eats at, a Starbucks that somehow always smells like burnt toast, and this super weird abandoned strip mall that people dare each other to go into at night. Anyway, this all kicked off last summer. It was a Saturday, and I remember because it was supposed to be my chill day. You know, just playing Fortnite, doom scrolling through TikTok, maybe hitting up Insta to see if any of my friends were actually doing something cooler than me. My sister, Mia, she's 15, burst into my room like she owned the place. She was holding this crumpled up flyer like it was a golden ticket from Willy Wonka or something. It was for this traveling circus called Cirque du Nox. First red flag, I'd never heard of it. Second red flag, it said, 1 night only. Location, Old Mill Road. Lot, dude, Old Mill Road lot is literally abandoned. Like last time I drove by there, it had barbed wire fences and one of those private property signs that's so old the letters are peeling off. Mia was hyped though, like full on begging me. Come on, Nate. It'll be fun. They're doing it for TikTok. It's supposed to be like really underground and creepy. Everyone's talking about it. I should have known. If everyone was talking about it and I hadn't heard a thing, it was either fake or sketchy. But whatever. I'm her big brother. I figured I'd go, keep an eye on her, maybe snag some funny TikToks for clout. Biggest mistake of my life. We got there around 8:30 p.m. It was already kinda dark, and honestly, the vibe was off immediately. There were maybe 20 cars parked haphazardly around the lot, most of them junkers with out-of-state plates, like Ohio, Missouri, even one from Florida. And the circus was barely even a circus. It was just one massive, dirty red and black striped tent in the middle of the lot. No rides, no food trucks, no music, not even like random clowns walking around. Just this giant tent, silent, breathing in the wind. Mia dragged me toward it like she didn't even notice anything weird. The guy at the entrance was even worse. He wasn't wearing a costume, just a long dirty black coat and a plastic carnival mask, the kind you buy last minute at Spirit Halloween. His voice was raspy as hell when he said, "Phones off inside. No pictures. Red flag number 3. Mia rolled her eyes and whispered, "He's just trying to make it scary." I didn't buy it, but again, big brother duty. So I shut my phone off and slipped it in my hoodie pocket. The second we stepped inside the tent, it was like walking into another world. It was cold inside, like way colder than outside, even though it was July. There were maybe 30 people sitting in mismatched folding chairs, all facing this tiny makeshift stage made out of plywood. The lights were low, this gross yellow color that made everyone's faces look sickly. And the performers, man, if you can even call them that. First, there was this woman who just stood on the stage and screamed for like 3 full minutes. Not words, just screamed. Then there was a dude who juggled knives, but he kept dropping them. And every time he dropped one, he'd slice himself a little on purpose and laugh like it was the funniest thing in the world. Halfway through, Mia leaned over and whispered, "Is it just me, or is this kinda wrong?" And before I could even answer, the ringleader came out. He was in a full old-school clown outfit, but not like the fun McDonald's kind, more like Victorian England haunted doll vibes. His makeup was cracked, and his mouth was painted in this big droopy smile that somehow looked sad and hungry at the same time. He didn't say anything at first, just stared at the crowd, scanning us, like he was picking someone. When his eyes locked on Mia, I swear to God, my stomach dropped. He crooked his finger at her, beckoning. Mia kinda laughed it off, but he kept pointing. The people around us started nudging her, giggling weirdly, like they thought it was part of the show. Mia stood up. I grabbed her arm immediately and said, "Nope, sit down." But she hesitated. I could tell she was torn between being cool and listening to me. And that was when the clown spoke. And I swear, even though he was across the tent, it sounded like he whispered directly into my ear. "We already chose her." The lights went out. Pitch black. I scrambled for my phone, but when I turned it on, the screen stayed black too. No flashlight, no home screen, nothing. And then, the screaming started, but this time, it wasn't the performers, it was Mia. When the lights went out and Mia screamed, something inside me snapped. Not like in a heroic big brother way, more like pure animal terror. I just started shoving through people, elbowing anyone in the way. I didn't even care anymore. Some dude in a hoodie tried to grab me, and I clocked him in the jaw without even thinking. It was chaos, screaming, chairs clattering to the floor, and underneath it all, this weird music, like an old broken music box, playing some song in reverse. I swear to you, and I know how crazy this sounds, when I finally reached where Mia had been sitting, she wasn't there. No chair, no Mia, just this tiny crumpled paper clown mask on the floor where she'd been. It wasn't even made of plastic or anything normal. It was like this greasy, almost wet paper with red hand-drawn scribbles for eyes and a mouth. It smelled like metal and mold at the same time. I remember grabbing it in a panic and yelling her name over and over. "Mia! M-I-A! Where are you?" Nobody answered. It's like she just got deleted. When I finally stumbled out of that tent into the parking lot, it was dead silent. Like, too silent. All the cars that were there when we arrived, gone. The lot was completely empty, except for my beat-up Honda Civic sitting crooked by the fence. And the tent? When I turned around, it was just gone. I know what you're thinking. "Nate, you're exaggerating. You blacked out. You were hallucinating." But no. The ground where the tent had been was just a huge, burnt circle of dead grass and ash, like something massive had been dropped there and lifted away. I jumped in the car, hands shaking so bad I could barely jam the keys in. I drove home, doing like 80 miles per hour the whole way, running every stop sign. When I burst through the front door, screaming for my parents, They were both sitting in the living room, calm, watching some stupid cooking show on Netflix. When I told them Mia was gone, they just blinked at me. "Who's Mia?" my mom said. I thought she was messing with me at first. Some awful joke. I started screaming at them, demanding they call the cops. My dad got up and grabbed me by the shoulders, hard, and said, "Nathan, we don't have a daughter." I ran upstairs, 2 steps at a time, into Mia's room, and it was empty. Not like messy, teenage girl empty, like no one had ever lived there. The walls were freshly painted, this blank hotel room beige. No bed, no posters, no clothes, no fairy lights, no makeup-stained desk, no scuffed Converse shoes thrown in the corner. Her room was a literal, empty, sterile box. The only thing left, on the middle of the floor, perfectly scented, was her cracked iPhone 13. The screen was black except for a single notification. Unknown sender. Thank you for attending. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat at my desk, staring at her phone. I didn't dare touch it. I kept refreshing Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. All her accounts were gone. Not deactivated, like they had never existed. Even pictures of her with me, selfies, birthday posts, completely wiped from my feed. It's like someone photoshopped her out of my entire life in real time. Even her tag on all posts, gone. Just blank white spaces where her name used to be. At 3:06 a.m., the phone buzzed. It unlocked itself. There was a video file sitting there now. No sender. Just a file called laugh.mp4. Against every survival instinct I had left, I tapped on it. The video started with static, grainy black and white footage, like it was being filmed through a 90s security camera. And then I saw her. Mia. She was standing in the middle of this concrete room, under a single hanging light bulb. Her clothes were shredded. Her hair was matted, hanging in her face. And she was laughing. Not normal laughing either. Her mouth was wrong, like someone had forced it open too wide. You could see all her teeth. The skin at the corners of her mouth was split, bleeding. Her eyes were rolling back into her head like she wasn't even awake. And behind her, in the shadows, something was moving. It was tall, twisting in impossible ways, like its spine was snapping over and over. Every few seconds, it would get closer. Mia would laugh harder, louder, more frantically, like she was in pain. The video ended abruptly with a wet, slapping noise, like raw meat hitting concrete, and then blackness. I sat there for a full hour, just staring at the blank screen. The next morning, the phone was gone. Not like I lost it. It was physically missing from my desk. No window open, no doors unlocked. Just gone. Over the next week, weird things started happening. Snapchats from random accounts. All just pictures of circus tents in abandoned lots around town. At school, people I'd never seen before would walk past me and whisper, "We chose her. You should have let her go." On TikTok, I kept getting stitched videos. Random accounts with no followers posting footage of me and Mia walking into that tent, filmed from angles I couldn't even explain, like drone footage, but super shaky and blurry. I even tried going to the police. I sat in this sterile, fluorescent-lit room, pouring my story out to some stone-faced detective at the local precinct. He nodded through the whole thing, took a few notes. Then at the end, he slid a piece of paper across the desk toward me. It just said, Circus du Nox, 1894 to 2021, closed. I looked up, confused. The detective was gone. The room was empty. I haven't seen Mia since that night. But a few days ago, around 2 a.m., I got another text. No number, no ID, just a picture. It was me, standing at a Starbucks a few blocks from my house. Except in the background, behind me, you could just barely see her. Mia, standing by the door, wearing the clown mask, smiling. After that Starbucks photo, something inside me just broke. I stopped leaving the house. I barely ate. I barely slept. I couldn't tell if I was awake half the time. Sometimes I'd catch glimpses of Mia in the mirror behind me, or reflections in store windows when I forced myself outside for food. Always just standing there, watching, wearing that awful, sagging paper clown mask. No one else ever saw her. 3 days after the Starbucks photo, I hit my breaking point. I decided I was going to find her, even if it killed me. I remembered something one of my friends, Cade, had bragged about once. How he knew how to get onto the dark web. Like the real dark web, not just some fake Reddit iceberg tier junk. He talked about it like it was a game. Bro, it's just Tor and onion links, he said. You just gotta know where to click. Cade owed me a favor anyway, so I hit him up on Discord. Me. Yo dude, need the link, Cade. What link me? Dark web. Real shit. Not fake. Urgent. It took him like 20 minutes, but eventually he sent me this messed up link. Not even letters and numbers, just symbols, like ancient symbols, stuff that didn't even look like they belonged on a keyboard. Underneath, he just typed, "Don't stay long." I downloaded Tor, plugged in the link, and hit enter. Instantly, my screen went black. No loading, no menus, no security warnings, just pure black. Then, a sound, like someone breathing against the glass of my monitor. And then the screen peeled open. That's the only way I can describe it. Like the blackness stretched and tore, and I fell through. Suddenly, I was somewhere else. It wasn't a website. It wasn't even a normal page. It looked like a live security cam feed from some disgusting, abandoned warehouse. Dim, flickering lights, rotten floors, metal walls with huge rusted stains dripping down. At the bottom of the feed, a single text box blinked. Enter. Who do you seek? I didn't even hesitate. I typed, Mia. The feed flickered. New footage appeared. It was her. Mia. Still in that ripped hoodie and jeans she wore the night she disappeared. But her face was worse. It was almost blank now, like a mask of stretched skin. Her eyes were just wide, flat, empty discs. She was sitting on a metal chair, her arms strapped down with what looked like rusted barbed wire. And standing behind her, just barely visible in the darkness, were the others. Figures. Clowns. Not circus clowns. Not even scary clowns. Things wearing clowns-like costumes. You could see the seams at the necks, the way the costumes twitched and sagged, like the skin didn't fit properly. One of them leaned into the camera, impossibly close without moving. Its voice came through my speakers in a whisper so sharp it felt like knives in my ears. Trade accepted. My laptop shut itself off. Smoke rose from the keyboard. I threw it across the room without thinking, heard it shatter into pieces against the wall. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out, hands shaking. New notification. DHL. Your package is arriving today. No sender ID. No tracking number. Nothing. Around noon, the doorbell rang. I didn't even want to answer it, but I knew it was for me. I cracked the door open. There was no delivery guy. No truck, just a small, black cardboard box sitting on the porch. I brought it inside, set it on the kitchen table, stared at it for an hour, just trying to work up the courage. Finally, I ripped it open. Inside was a mask. The same paper clown mask Mia had worn, only this time it was damp, heavy. It smelled like blood. Stuffed inside the mask was a Polaroid picture, a photo of me, asleep in my bed, and standing over me, Mia, or whatever she was now. The back of the Polaroid had a single sentence written in red ink. One must take the other's place. The next 24 hours are honestly a blur. I didn't leave my house. I didn't eat. Every time I blinked, I saw the warehouse. I heard the breathing behind walls, felt fingers brushing my hair when I lay down. At one point, I swear, I heard Mia's voice outside my bedroom door, whispering, "Help me, Nate. Please. It hurts so much." I almost opened it. Almost. But I remembered something that jolted me awake like cold water. Back at the tent, when the clown first pointed at Mia, he hadn't pointed at her alone. He pointed at our seats. Both of us. It was supposed to be both of us. But I pulled her down. I stopped her. I ruined the ritual, or whatever sick game they were playing. And now they wanted to fix it. That night, my phone buzzed again. Another video. This time it showed me. Live. I was sitting at my desk, watching the video. I could see myself, see the room behind me, and something else. Something, standing in the hallway just outside the frame, slowly creeping closer. Every time the video glitched, it moved a little more into the frame. Closer, closer, until finally, I felt a cold breath against my neck. I turned around. Nothing was there. At least nothing I could see. But when I looked back at the screen, the live feed showed me again. Only this time, I wasn't alone. There was a hand resting on my shoulder. I'm not proud of what I did next. I packed a bag, just the basics. A hoodie, my wallet, my dead laptop, for some reason, Mia's mask. I grabbed my keys. I didn't even leave a note. I just left. I drove until I couldn't recognize the highways anymore, until the green exit signs turned blue, then brown, then black, until even Google Maps showed just a blank, featureless void. Eventually, I saw it again. That damn circus tent, pitched in the middle of a dead cornfield, under a moon that was too big, too bright, like it was watching. No cars, no people, just waiting. And this time, when I walked toward it, there was no ticket taker, no crowd, just the flap of the tent swinging open, inviting me inside. And deep inside, at the center of the darkness, I could hear her laughing. When I stepped into the tent, the air changed. You know how, in some dreams, the world feels off, like gravity is broken and your body isn't really yours anymore. That's what it felt like. Except this wasn't a dream. I could still smell the rotting canvas, still feel the muddy ground soaking into my sneakers, still hear the soft, wet noises coming from deeper inside. I didn't have a choice anymore. I walked forward. The first thing I noticed was that the tent was wrong inside. Way too big. Bigger than should have been physically possible. It felt like I was walking through a massive shopping mall after a nuclear blast. Echoes in every direction, collapsing structures leaning against each other. Every few steps, there were displays. I don't know what else to call them. Little stations, almost like museum exhibits, scattered in the darkness, each lit by a single naked light bulb, swinging back and forth. At the first one, I saw a girl about Mia's age. She was sitting at a makeup table, brushing her hair over and over and over, except her scalp was raw and bleeding. The brush was full of hair and skin. Every time she finished a stroke, she would pause, tilt her head at me, and smile like it was a goddamn Sears family photo day. Her eyes were glassy, and leaking something black. Underneath the table was a plaque. Beauty. She didn't want to be forgotten. I stumbled away. The second station was worse. A teenage boy was crouched in a kiddie pool, full of what looked like wet concrete. Every time he tried to stand, heavy chains yanked him down by the throat. His arms and legs were nothing but bruises and welts, twitching, twitching, twitching. His mouth kept moving silently, like he was begging for something, but no sound came out. The plaque by his feet read, "Loyalty." He couldn't let go. The deeper I went, the colder it got. Not normal cold, dead cold, like the inside of a morgue. I could see my breath puffing out in white streams. My hands were going numb. I could barely hold onto Mia's mask, which I realized I was still carrying. Every once in a while, I thought I saw shadows moving along the walls. Tall, spindly things, dragging their limbs behind them like broken puppets. Whenever I stopped to look, they froze too, waiting, breathing. Finally, I reached the center of the tent, a massive circular stage, surrounded by crumbling bleachers filled with mannequins. Every mannequin had a smiling clown face, crudely painted on, some with lipstick, some with Sharpie, some just smeared on with bloody handprints. They were all facing me. At the very center of the stage stood a tall wooden pole. Tied to it, by rusted barbed wire, was Mia, or what was left of her. She was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. Her ribs showed through her skin, which was stretched and bruised purple and green. Her wrists were shredded where the wire bit into them. Her eyes were rolled back, and black tears streamed down her face. The mask I carried slipped from my hands and hit the ground with a wet slap. And that's when the ringleader stepped onto the stage. He was worse, up close. The clown outfit hung off him like wet laundry. His face wasn't even makeup anymore. It was cracked, flaking porcelain fused into his skin, splitting at the corners of his mouth to reveal rotten gums underneath. He moved like a spider walking on broken legs, jerking closer in sharp, unnatural bursts. He spoke without moving his mouth. The words just appeared inside my head, echoing against my skull. She is laughter. You are silence. One must balance the other. He pointed at my chest with one skeletal finger. I stumbled backward, shaking my head. No, I croaked. No, you can't have her. She's my sister. The clown tilted his head. The mannequins in the bleachers tilted theirs too, all at once, in one sickening synchronized motion. You owe a debt. Payment overdue. The floor under my feet began to split open. Long black hands reached up through the cracks. Hands with too many fingers, too many joints. They grabbed at my ankles, my legs, pulling me down into the dirt. Suddenly, Mia spoke. Her voice was tiny, a broken whisper beneath the laughing. Help me, Nate. Please. It hurts. I'm so tired. The clown reached into his coat and pulled out an object, an old, rusted pair of scissors. He held them out toward me, like a priest offering communion. Choose. Here's where everything breaks apart in my memory. I remember running forward, grabbing the scissors. I remember screaming until my throat tore open. I remember cutting the barbed wire loose from her wrists, blood spraying my hands. I remember Mia collapsing into my arms, her body so light and fragile, it felt like she would crumble to dust. I remember running, dragging her, running through the endless nightmare halls of the tent, running past the mannequins, the exhibits, the screaming statues, running while the shadows chased me, closer and closer, whispering, balance, balance, balance. Somehow, I don't know how I broke through the tent's walls, not through a door, through the fabric itself. I crashed onto cold asphalt. The sky above was pale and empty. The circus was gone. I blinked around wildly, heart hammering. I was lying in a cracked Walmart parking lot, a few towns over, middle of the night, deserted. Mia was still in my arms, or what was left of her. She was paper-thin now. Her skin was gray and flaking. Her hair was brittle and falling out in clumps. Her eyes were wide open but blank. A thin, papery voice escaped her cracked lips. "I'm tired, Nate. I'm so tired. Let me go. Please." I didn't answer. I couldn't, because deep down, I knew this wasn't Mia anymore. Not really. I laid her down gently on the pavement. She smiled one last time. And then, like a piece of ash caught on the wind, she crumbled away. Gone. I sat there until the sun came up. Frozen. Empty. When I finally stumbled home, my parents were gone. The house was gutted, like it had been abandoned for years. My phone? Dead. No service. No internet. No contacts. I was alone. But sometimes when I'm sitting in the dead quiet of night, I hear it again. The sound of that broken music box, playing backwards. And sometimes, only sometimes, when I pass by darkened alleyways or empty malls or abandoned fields, I swear I see the edge of a red and black tent flapping in the wind, waiting, patient, hungry. I wish I could tell you that it ended there. I wish I could tell you that after Mia crumbled into nothing, I went home, slept for 3 days, and somehow woke up to find it was all just some extended psychotic break. But that's not what happened. Not even close. The days started blending into each other like oil on water. I'd wake up, and it would be dark outside. I'd pass people on the street who didn't have faces. Literal blank skin stretched where their features should be. No eyes, no mouths, just smooth, blank flesh, smiling somehow from without a mouth. No one else seemed to notice. I'd go into Walmart or the gas station, and the workers would stare at me too long, blinking out of sync like broken animatronics. TikTok wouldn't load anymore. Instagram? Dead. When I opened Snapchat, the only thing that ever came up was a single story at the top, from an account called Cirque du Nox Official. The thumbnail was a picture of Mia, laughing, still stuck there, still waiting. One night, I thought about ending it. I drove my car out to that dead stretch of road past the edge of town, where the streetlights stop, and it's just endless black cornfields pressing against the windshield. I turned the headlights off. I floored it. Let the car rip into the darkness. I was maybe 3 seconds from impact when I saw it. That goddamn tent, red and black, right in the middle of the road, flapping open like it was laughing at me. I swerved, smashed through a ditch, and woke up hours later with blood dried to the side of my face and the car half buried in mud. There was no tent anymore, just a crumpled flyer stuck to the windshield. When I peeled it off, it read, "Don't run. We follow." It got worse after that. I started blacking out. I'd wake up in places I didn't remember driving to, outside abandoned malls, dead gas stations off empty highways, parking lots with shattered lights buzzing overhead. Every time, in the distance, that tent, waiting, closer every time. At night, my dreams were filled with them, the creatures behind the circus, the ones wearing the clown faces like human skin. They called themselves the Hands. I don't know why. Maybe because they were the ones who pulled the strings. Maybe because they were the ones who grabbed you when you fell asleep. In the dreams, they would crouch on the ceiling like spiders, whispering into my ears about debts, about balance, about how once you see them, you belong to them. That seeing was the price. There was no escape. I deleted every app, smashed my phone, burned my laptop. Didn't matter. They weren't using tech anymore. They were using me. Last week, I thought maybe if I went public, told someone, anyone, it would break the spell. I tried posting on Facebook, tried messaging old friends on Messenger. No one responded. Not one person. The only thing that happened was that my posts got deleted instantly, and every time I refreshed my page, a new message would appear in red text. There is no rescue. There is only the show. I decided to go back. I don't even remember making the decision, honestly. It felt like something wearing my skin made the choice for me. I packed nothing this time. I didn't need to. There's no coming back once you walk through that tent again. I found it in an abandoned Best Buy parking lot, 30 minutes outside the city. Middle of nowhere. No signs of life except a few crows picking at something on the asphalt that I refused to look too closely at. The tent was even bigger this time. The flaps already open, swaying like a mouth breathing in and out. No music, no lights, no laughter. Just silence. Like a heartbeat had stopped. Inside, the displays were different now. It wasn't mannequins anymore. It was people I knew. The guy who used to work the drive-thru at Starbucks. My old high school math teacher. The woman who checked my groceries at Target last week. All of them were frozen in place, each holding something. A phone, a laptop, a camera. All pointed at me. Filming, recording, broadcasting my last steps. At the center of it all stood a mirror. Tall, cracked, blackened around the edges like it had been pulled from a burning building. I saw myself in it. Or, no, not me. Something wearing me. Its smile was wrong. Too wide, too sharp. Its eyes were pitch black pools, swallowing the light. It lifted a hand and beckoned me forward. Behind the mirror, a voice whispered, "The show must go on." I stepped through. There was no tent anymore, no parking lot, no world, just an endless rotten stage under a sickly white spotlight. Rows and rows of empty chairs stretching out forever into the blackness. And at the front of it all, an old, rusted carnival camera pointed directly at me. Filming. Always filming. Sometimes I hear the audience, coughing, laughing, whispering my name. Sometimes I think I see Mia sitting in the front row, clapping with bloody hands. Sometimes I think I see myself sitting there too, watching myself, laughing. You probably think you're safe reading this. You probably think you're just scrolling your phone, chilling in your room, bored. You probably think this is just another made-up creepypasta to kill time before bed. But the thing about the Circus du Nox is, once you see it, it sees you too. Once you know about it, you can feel it. Somewhere. Waiting. Patient. Hungry. You'll hear it first. That broken backwards music box playing when you're alone at night. Then you'll see it. A flicker of red and black stripes out of the corner of your eye. And when you finally follow it, because you will, when you finally walk through that flapping, smiling tent door, there's no coming back, no rescue, no waking up, no end. The show must go on. And now, you're next. I am a dark web janitor in a museum. The painting started watching me back. Yo, what's up guys? So, This happened about 3 months ago, and honestly, even now, I still can't wrap my head around it. I never thought I'd be the guy to post on Reddit about some crazy horror story, but after what went down, yeah, I have to get it off my chest. Maybe it'll help me sleep better. Probably not. So, a little background. I live in Chicago, just scraping by like everyone else my age, right? Got roommates, DoorDash, every other day, hanging out at Starbucks to feel productive. You know the vibe. Anyway, I was desperate for a better paying job, so I started looking online. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, even those sketchy Telegram groups people swear you can find exclusive gigs on. No luck. One night, I got super desperate and dipped my toe into the deep web. Yeah, I know. Dumb. Only bad things happen there. Whatever. I figured if I stayed smart, VPN on, burn a laptop, all that jazz, I'd be fine. I stumbled across this really minimal looking job board. Nothing fancy. No graphics. Just black text on a gray background. It looked like it hadn't been updated since 2003 or something. And there it was. Museum janitor needed. Night shift. $500 a night. Discretion mandatory. $500 per night. I almost choked on my Monster Energy drink. I mean, come on. That's crazy money for cleaning floors, right? I figured maybe it was one of those old haunted house gigs where you babysit a building for a few hours and collect easy cash. There was no official company name listed, no address, just GPS coordinates, a contact number, looked European, and a note. Call after 11 p.m. Bring nothing. Against every single sane bone in my body, I called. A woman answered. Her voice was weirdly calm, kind of staticky, like when you call someone across the world. She just said, "Come tonight. Midnight. Wear black. Follow the lights. Click." That's it. No contract. No paperwork. Just super sketchy horror movie vibes. But, like an idiot, I still went. Listen, $500 is $500. Judge me all you want. When I showed up, it wasn't like any museum I recognized. It wasn't the Art Institute or some cool spot downtown near the Bean or whatever. The place was about 40 minutes out, tucked in the woods near an abandoned stretch of road people usually only talk about on Chicago TikTok when telling ghost stories. You know how it is. Don't go to Blackthorn Road at night kind of stuff. I pulled up to this huge, old-school, Victorian-looking building. It was massive, like a haunted version of the Field Museum, but with all the lights off, except for these tiny little floodlights along the ground leading to the front door. No one else around. No cars. No sounds except the crunch of gravel under my sneakers and my own heartbeat. I honestly thought about turning around. But again, $500. I followed the lights up to the front entrance. The door was unlocked, just slightly ajar, like it was inviting me in. Inside, it smelled like old paper, mold, and something sharp, like iron or pennies. Blood, maybe. Yeah, I should have left right then. There was a single desk inside the lobby with a note taped to it. Your supplies are in the closet. Do not touch anything else, especially the art. Underneath that was an old Nokia phone, one of those brick ones from like 2002. It buzzed as soon as I picked it up. New text. Start with the East Wing. Report anything unusual. Cool. Great. Totally normal night. The museum was dark, except for these weird, dim green emergency lights that made everything look like it was underwater. The walls were covered in portraits. Old ones, like medieval kings and queens, but creepier. Their faces weren't right. Their eyes were too sharp, smiles a little too wide. I mopped the floors, took out a few trash bags that looked weirdly full for a closed museum, and avoided even glancing too hard at the exhibits. I kept thinking about that note. Do not touch the art. About an hour in, around 2 a.m., I started noticing something. Every time I passed this one particular painting, a woman in a black dress with this twisted little smirk, I swear to God, her eyes were following me. I mean, I know paintings do that sometimes, like it's an optical illusion or whatever, but this felt different, realer, like I could feel her watching me, judging me. At one point, when I turned my back, I heard something behind me, a soft tapping, like someone's nails on glass. I spun around. Nothing. But the painting, it had changed, just a little. Her head, which had been tilted slightly to the right before, was now tilted left. Her smile was a fraction wider. And I swear, I saw the tip of her tongue peeking between her teeth. I noped out of there so fast, you don't even know. I bolted straight to the lobby, breathing like I'd just sprinted a marathon. The Nokia buzzed again. Stay. Complete your shift. No signature. No explanation. And when I looked up at the glass doors to the entrance, the green lights flickering behind me, I saw her reflection, standing right behind me. I didn't run. Not because I was brave. Hell no. But because my body literally locked up. It's like every cell in me knew that if I moved, even blinked, she would grab me. I don't even know how long I stood there, staring at the glass doors, with her reflection smiling behind me. Then, so slowly, I could hear the creak of fabric. The woman in the reflection raised her hand, not to wave, not to beckon. She lifted her finger and dragged it across her neck in a slow, deliberate line. I closed my eyes, told myself it was a hallucination. Stress. You know how your brain plays tricks on you when you're overtired? But when I opened them again, the reflection was gone. I bolted back into the museum's hallway, not because I thought it was safe, but because something instinctual told me. The lobby wasn't mine anymore. The east wing was darker now, way darker than when I first cleaned it. The emergency lights flickered like bad Wi-Fi connections. Every couple of seconds, the hall would flash green, then pitch black, green, then black again, like some nightmare rave. That's when I noticed it. The paintings, they weren't hanging where I left them. Some were upside down. Some were facing the wall. One was straight up gone. The wall behind it, empty, except for these deep scratches carved into the brick, like something had clawed its way out. The Nokia buzzed again in my pocket. My hands were trembling so bad, I almost dropped it, trying to read the message. Check basement storage. Bring flashlight. I didn't even know there was a basement. There weren't any signs, no elevators. But as soon as I finished reading the text, I heard a noise. A metallic clang, like someone had dropped a manhole cover. It came from behind a door at the end of the east wing, a door that definitely hadn't been there before. I should have left. I know that. I know. But it was like the building itself didn't want me to leave anymore. I pressed forward. The door was rusted, industrial looking, like something you'd see in a meat-packing plant. It had no handle, just a keypad. And as I stood there, frozen, the keypad beeped and unlocked itself. The door swung open, releasing this cold, wet smell, like mildew mixed with old pennies and something rotten, like a flooded graveyard. Stairs spiraled down into total darkness. I pulled out my phone. Dead. Not even a glimmer of battery left. Luckily, there was a little plastic flashlight taped under the desk when I first arrived, and I had pocketed it like a dumbass thinking, "Ooh, free flashlight." It was one of those cheap dollar store ones, barely bright enough to light 5 feet ahead, but it was better than nothing. I started down the stairs. Every step I took felt heavier, like the air itself was getting thicker, harder to breathe. The smell got worse too, like something had died a long time ago and nobody had bothered to clean it up. About halfway down, I noticed something on the walls. Not graffiti, not mold, handprints, hundreds of them, small ones, large ones, tiny ones, pressed into the concrete, like the wall had been soft when they touched it. Some of the handprints had long, trailing streaks underneath, like they were trying to claw their way back up. I kept moving. At the bottom was a hallway. The walls weren't even finished, just raw dirt and wood beams like some Civil War bunker. And all along the hallway, there were cages, dozens of them. Some were empty, some were not. I'm not even sure what I was looking at first. Piles of cloth, mannequins, number. They were people, or what used to be people. Bodies twisted and broken in ways that didn't make sense, as if someone had taken mannequins and tried to reshape them by hand. Joints bent the wrong way, faces smashed and stitched back together in horrifying Picasso-looking patterns, eyes replaced with buttons, nails, sometimes glass marbles. Some still moved, twitching, sobbing, or worse, singing quietly under their breath. One of them, a woman whose arms were stitched to her sides like a cocoon, lifted her head when I passed. Her mouth was sewn shut, but blood leaked from the corners as she made this horrible, wet, gurgling sound like she was trying to scream. I nearly puked right there. The Nokia buzzed again. I didn't even want to look, but curiosity and terror are stronger than reason, I guess. The message read, "Clean room B. Painting needs correction." At the end of the hallway was a door labeled B. Inside, it looked like a torture chamber, had a baby with an art studio. Easels everywhere. Canvases dripping with dark red paint that I was 99.9% sure wasn't actually paint. Chains bolted into the walls, stained black. And in the center, propped up on a massive stand, was her painting. The woman in the black dress. Only now, she wasn't smiling. She was screaming. Her hands were pressed against the inside of the canvas, warping it outward like she was trapped behind the surface. Her eyes were wild and bloodshot. Tears, actual glistening tears, streamed down her cheeks. Beneath the painting, written in something dark and wet, were the words, "Bring me more." The flashlight flickered and died. In the dark, I heard chains rattling, slow, deliberate footsteps, and a voice right behind my ear. "You'll do nicely." I couldn't scream. I couldn't even breathe. The second that voice whispered against my ear, the air thickened, heavy like concrete, pressing against my lungs. My body moved on its own, legs buckling under me, forehead smacking hard against the cracked, blood-slicked floor of room B. I wasn't unconscious though. No such mercy. The flashlight was dead in my hand. The only light came from the twisted paintings hanging crookedly around the room, like each canvas bled its own faint, sick yellow glow. Somewhere deep in that glow, the woman's painting, her prison, pulsed. The fabric of her world bulged outward, like it was breathing. I tried crawling backwards toward the door, but something cold wrapped around my ankle. Not a hand, not a chain. It was a strip of canvas, wet, slimy, frayed at the edges like shredded skin, and moving on its own like it was alive. It tightened around my ankle, burning hot against my skin, and started dragging me back toward the painting. I kicked. I screamed. It didn't care. As I was hauled across the floor, I passed by the easels again, and that's when I saw it, truly saw it. Those weren't paintings. They were bodies, skinned, flattened, stretched onto wooden frames, faces twisted into grotesque masks of terror, hands frozen in poses of begging, praying, pleading. Each canvas was still breathing. Somewhere, under the thick lacquer of blood and pigment, the people trapped inside them were still alive. One woman's eye rolled toward me, bulging wetly from a corner of the canvas. She mouthed something, maybe help me, or maybe kill me, before a jagged tear split open her midsection and black, tarry ooze bubbled out. I vomited. I couldn't stop it. It spilled across the floor in sticky ropes, mixing with whatever centuries-old filth already soaked the tiles. The canvas around my ankle jerked again, harder now. It was pulling me straight toward the woman's painting, her twisted, shrieking form, still slamming her palms against the inner surface, cracking the paint with every blow. There was something else happening, too. The other paintings in the room, the ones lining the walls, half melted and rotting, were watching. Their eyes widened, mouths sagging open, their torsos warping and stretching as they leaned out of their frames, breathing hard, their expressions hungry. The Nokia buzzed in my pocket, frantic, shrill. I clawed it out with bloody fingers, barely able to read the vibrating text on the cracked screen. Make the trade, or become the art. Trade? What trade? That's when I saw the door creak open at the end of the hallway, and a figure stumbled through. He was younger than me, maybe 19, 20, bleached blonde hair, the kind of messy TikTok boy vibe you see all over Instagram. He was wearing a McDonald's uniform, his name tag dangling half off. The guy's face was a mess, tears streaked with black, blood leaking from his nose, shivering so hard his knees knocked together. He was dragging something behind him. A girl, no older than 16, duct-taped, gagged, barely conscious. He looked at me. He looked at the paintings. Then he looked at the woman in the black dress, who had stopped pounding at the canvas to stare at him, a grin slowly splitting her cracked lips. The guy nodded once, and pushed the girl toward the painting. The canvas opened, like jaws snapping open, and swallowed her whole. The girl didn't even have time to scream. The painting shivered, glowed, and horribly sighed. The woman's face smoothed out, the cracks disappearing. Her hands dropped from the inside of the frame. She smiled at me again, this time with satisfaction, and the canvas at my ankle went slack. I scrambled away, crab walking backward until I hit the far wall. The guy with the McDonald's uniform turned toward me, face hollow, dead. Trade or die, he said in a voice that wasn't his. Then he turned and walked back through the door he came from, dragging a chain behind him that disappeared into the dark. I was alone again. I made it back upstairs somehow. I don't even remember running. The museum was different now. The walls were slick with oil or blood or something worse. The air buzzed like a hive of flies. And the exhibits, they were alive. Statues of ancient kings and warriors, their mouths sewn shut with barbed wire. Dinosaur bones cobbled into grotesque centipede-like beasts that twitched and shuddered when I passed. Taxidermy animals ripped open, their guts spilling down their stands, faces stitched into wide, unnatural grins. Everything watched me. Everything wanted me. I kept moving, kept staggering toward the front door, one foot in front of the other. When I reached the lobby, the woman was there, out of her painting now, not running, not even walking. She floated. Her black dress rippled around her like it was underwater, her bare feet leaving trails of sticky, black sludge across the marble floor. She was holding something, a paintbrush, but instead of bristles, the tip was made of human hair, matted with blood. She raised it toward me, and I saw, written across the lobby walls in jagged, dripping letters, "Correct yourself." The front doors were just a few steps away, wide open. I ran. I ran faster than I ever have in my life, down the marble steps, into the freezing night air, not stopping even when I felt hot tears pouring down my face, not stopping even when I heard her laughter following me, low and sweet and endless. When I made it back to my car, the windshield was shattered. Words had been carved into the hood with some sharp object. "You owe us." And sitting on my passenger seat, waiting for me, was a package, wrapped in greasy brown paper. No note. Inside, a folded piece of canvas and a paintbrush, the same one she held, the bristles still wet with something that smelled like burnt hair and copper. I never went back. I moved out of Chicago, deleted every social, bought a new phone, left everything behind. But sometimes, when I'm scrolling TikTok late at night, watching those dumb prank videos or Starbucks hacks, I see flashes, paintings, flashes of her face in the reflection of my phone screen. And sometimes, I wake up in the middle of the night, paint dripping from my hands, and I realize I'm painting, but I don't know what or who. There's no running from them. You can throw your phone into a river, burn your clothes, move across the country, hell, move across the world. Doesn't matter. They find you. It took a while for them to catch up with me. 6 months of hiding in dead towns across Wyoming, Oregon, Utah, staying in moldy motels where the smell of bleach barely covered the stench of other people's nightmares. I paid cash, only. Never stayed longer than 2 nights. No social media, no GPS, no paper trails. And still, they found me. It started small. The paintings. I'd wake up with charcoal sketches under my motel door, crumpled, yellowed pages, sometimes drawn in ink, sometimes something darker. Always of me, sleeping, bleeding, screaming. Sometimes the drawing showed a second figure standing over me, mouth stitched into a sick grin, holding a brush made of hair. Other times, the sketches would shift when I blinked. I could swear the faces moved, the hands reaching for me. And then came the broadcasts. One night, in a cheap no-name hotel outside Reno, I flipped on the TV out of habit. Static. And then, a museum. That museum. On the screen, under the flicker of security cameras, I saw Room B. Empty easels, blank canvases, chains swinging gently from the walls. At first, I thought it was some insane coincidence, until the camera zoomed in onto a fresh canvas, a fresh painting of me, nailed to a board, mouth wide in a frozen scream, my skin stretched like leather over my own skeleton. The camera panned down, and written across the bottom of the painting in dripping black letters were 3 words: "You are next." The TV exploded into sparks. Glass embedded itself in my arms, my chest. I didn't even feel the cuts at first. I just sat there, paralyzed by something colder and sharper than fear. Recognition. I knew they were here. I knew the collectors had come. It wasn't like in the movies. No dark figures kicking down doors. No dramatic chase scenes. They moved differently. They leaked into your world, drip by drip, until you didn't realize you were drowning, until it was too late. The first real sign was when my reflection stopped following me. It happened in a dingy gas station bathroom off I-80. I leaned over the sink, splashing cold water on my face, trying to wash off the endless exhaustion. When I looked up, my reflection was still staring down, still hunched, still trembling, frozen. It didn't move. Even when I did, it just grinned. A huge, cracking, bone-snapping smile that peeled up almost to the ears. The eyes in the mirror, my eyes, were empty, black holes that leaked black sludge down the cheeks like tears. Behind me, in the mirror, something taller, darker, was stepping closer. Too many arms, all of them carrying brushes, all of them dripping. I bolted from the bathroom without even zipping my jacket. The man behind the counter didn't move, didn't blink. He just turned his head, too fast, too sharp, and watched me leave. That night, they cornered me. I had holed up in an abandoned campground outside of the city. No signal, no light, nothing but endless, gnashing black woods that sounded like they were breathing. I built a fire as best I could, the tiny flames casting ugly, jerking shadows over the rotting picnic tables and cracked concrete slabs. I told myself, if I can survive till morning, I'll make it. It was a lie. But you tell yourself whatever you have to when you're desperate. I was dozing when I heard it. The scratching, not from the trees, not from an animal, from the inside of my own head. It sounded like nails dragging along wet canvas, slow, deliberate. When I opened my eyes, the fire was dead, and standing around me, in a perfect circle, were the collectors. You don't forget them once you see them. They look almost human. Almost. But their faces are wrong. Their skin stretched too tightly over bones that don't seem to match human anatomy. Hands too long, smiles too wide. And their eyes, God, their eyes, they shine like wet oil, black and bottomless, swirling with flecks of red and gold, like burning embers trapped underwater. Each of them carried something, an easel, a brush, a canvas, and they were all looking at me. The leader stepped forward. She was taller than the others, wrapped in rags that dragged across the ground, leaving bloody trails in the dirt. From the folds of her robes, hundreds of tiny skeletal hands reached out, grasping blindly at the air, twitching and clenching. Her face wasn't a face. It was a blank canvas stretched over a skull, and as she stepped closer, the canvas started to shift. First, it painted a mouth, grinning, then eyes, black, hollow, then my face. She spoke without moving the mouth. Her voice was layered, 1,000 voices at once. You were chosen. You left unfinished work. I shook my head so hard, my teeth rattled. No, I said, voice breaking. I never agreed. I never... But she ignored me. She raised a brush made of hair and bone, dipped it into the darkness leaking from her robes, and pointed it at me. The collectors moved in. They didn't drag me away. They painted me away. Each stroke of the horrible brushes stripped something off of me. Pieces of memory, chunks of feeling. First my childhood, gone in one slash across my chest. Then my parents' faces, gone with a splatter across my back. Laughter, music, love, scraped off with brutal scraping motions that left my mind bleeding and raw. Every second I remained, I felt less human, until there was nothing left but canvas. When I looked down, I saw my hands were gone, replaced with flat, paper-thin sheets of skin that flapped in the cold wind. I wasn't standing anymore. I was hanging on an invisible frame. They circled me, admiring their work, nodding. The leader stepped up and, with a careful flick of her wrist, carved a signature across my heart in burning black ink. The world twisted. I woke up in a gallery, clean, pristine, white walls, polished floors, hundreds of paintings hung in neat rows, all of them screaming silently. I was one of them. I could see out of the frame, but couldn't move, couldn't blink. Visitors walked by, families, tourists, influencers snapping Instagram pics. None of them could hear the screaming. Sometimes the little kids would pause and look scared, tucking themselves into their parents' sides. The adults always pulled them away, laughing nervously. They never looked closely enough to see the truth, that the paintings weren't just paintings. They were warnings. They were trophies. And every night, after the last guest leaves and the museum lights die, the collectors come. They walk the halls, dragging new canvases behind them, looking for new subjects. They never let you die. That's the first thing you realize. You think death is the escape hatch, the reset button, the way out. It's not. Not here. In the museum, the real museum, the one underneath the world you think you know, death is just another frame, another display, another way to keep you. Every second you're trapped, you're aware. You're aware of the layers of paint building up inside you, suffocating your soul. You're aware of the tourists laughing, sipping Starbucks lattes, wandering obliviously past the rows and rows of us, living, breathing prisoners flattened into inches of canvas. You feel your mind stretch thinner every day, like a rubber band ready to snap, but it never does. They make sure of that. The collectors walk among the visitors. Sometimes they wear human skin. They blend in perfectly. A dad in cargo shorts with a Nikon camera, a teenage girl snapping selfies for Instagram, a middle-aged woman sipping pink drinks through a straw, her jaw unhinging just a little too wide when she smiles. They look for the cracks. They can see it, the fracture lines inside people, loneliness, desperation, greed. And when they find someone weak enough, someone broken enough, they trade. An invisible contract, signed without ink, sealed without words, just a glance, a nod, and another canvas is filled. I learned all this because the painting beside me taught me. He was a kid, maybe 15. He used to be a YouTuber, did dumb challenge videos in Walmart parking lots, got lured through a sponsorship email one night, free trip to a mystery art show if he vlogged it for a new app launch. He never made it home. Now he hung beside me, his face smeared into long, distorted lines of pain. Every night, when the lights died and the visitors left, the paintings whispered to each other across the halls in voices that sounded like rusted hinges scraping open. Stories, confessions, warnings. We built a map in our heads of the museum's real layout, tracing every room, every corridor, every hidden door. But it didn't matter, because the museum was alive. It changed, shifted, grew. It was endless. One night, maybe weeks, maybe years later, it's impossible to tell time here. The collectors unveiled a new exhibit, the Mirror Hall. No visitors allowed, only those who had already traded. The paintings were dragged there first, screaming, begging, and then silence. When it was my turn, they didn't even need to carry me. The canvas bent and twisted itself into a writhing black tendril that pulled me down the hall. The Mirror Hall isn't made of glass. It's made of memories. Every surface I passed flickered with scenes from my life. My mother's face when I graduated, my best friend handing me a beer at a house party. The girl I almost asked out, but didn't. All of it twisted, distorted. In one mirror, my mother's face peeled away, dripping like wax. In another, my best friend laughed and laughed as black worms poured from his mouth. The girl I loved, she tore her own heart out and stuffed it into her mouth, chewing mechanically, her eyes empty. Every reflection I passed whispered the same thing. You should have stayed. You should have painted. At the end of the hall was a single frame, empty, waiting, and standing next to it was her, the woman from the original painting. But now, she wasn't confined to 2 dimensions. She had stepped fully into this world. Her skin was cracked porcelain. Her fingers ended in paintbrush bristles, dripping something black and endless. She smiled and held out a hand, a brush in her palm. The last brush. They don't tell you the final rule until it's too late. If you paint someone else into the frame, you can leave. Not forever, not clean, not free, but you can move again, live again, for a while, until they come for you again. I took the brush. I didn't want to. I had to. It was either that, or remain a skin-thin ghost, screaming silently in a museum no one ever really sees. They gave me a canvas, fresh, white, waiting. And then they gave me the subject, a girl. Couldn't have been older than 12. Tears streaked down her cheeks as she sat shivering in front of the frame, gagged with a strip of her own t-shirt. She didn't know why she was there. I did, because someone had traded her, a parent, a sibling, a lover. Someone had decided she was worth less than freedom, just like me. I lifted the brush. I hesitated. I thought about every second of horror I'd lived. I thought about the black oil dripping down her cheeks, about her life draining away, about the collectors watching hungrily, eager for fresh art. And then I painted. I don't even remember the strokes. It felt like vomiting through my hands. When it was over, she was gone, flattened into the canvas, her mouth frozen open in a silent scream, eyes stretched too wide, hands reaching out for something that would never come. The collectors clapped. The woman bowed low, mocking. The museum shifted around me, and I woke up in a hospital bed, fluorescent lights humming, machines beeping, an IV in my arm, a nurse standing by the door, scrolling TikTok. The doctor told me I had been found delirious on the side of a rural road outside Denver, muttering nonsense, covered in paint and cuts. They said I was lucky to be alive. They were wrong. I wasn't alive. I was borrowed. Every mirror, every reflective surface I pass now, I see the frame behind me, waiting. Every time I blink, I hear the bristles of a brush dragging across canvas. Every time I close my eyes, I smell the sickening sweetness of old paint and blood. And worst of all, every once in a while, when I scroll TikTok or swipe through Instagram Reels or watch some dumb travel vlog on YouTube, I see her, standing in the background, dressed in black, smiling, waiting, holding a brush. You might see her too, if you stare long enough, if you stay online too late, if you get too lonely. She's patient. She'll wait for your cracks to show, and then you'll get your invitation to paint or to become the painting. Choose wisely, because once you step into the museum, there's no way out, only new frames and new art forever. My boyfriend performed a ritual on the dark web. He talks in sleep and keeps repeating thank you for your body. Alright, so before I even start this story, I just want to say, I know how it sounds. Trust me, if you told me this 6 months ago, I would have laughed in your face and said you were watching too many TikTok horror stories. But now, yeah, I don't sleep anymore. Anyway, my name's Julia. I'm 21, live in a small but nice apartment in Chicago. Like, not downtown, but close enough to walk to a Starbucks or a Target if I wanted to. Life was chill. I was working remotely, doing customer support for some boring app no one's heard of. It was fine. Boring, sure, but safe. Then I met Caleb. I met him on Instagram, which, yeah, mistake number one. He had this artsy profile with moody photos of abandoned buildings, old playgrounds, and random photos of, like, broken baby dolls in the street. Stuff that should have screamed red flag. But he was hot, and we bonded over horror movies and a shared addiction to late-night McDonald's runs. We dated for 3 months, and honestly, everything felt normal. Maybe a little intense. Caleb was super into weird internet stuff. Creepypastas, ARGs, those iceberg conspiracy videos you see on YouTube at 2 a.m. He'd always be sending me links like, bro, watch this cursed video before bed, LMAO, and I'd just roll my eyes. But around month 4, he got different, quieter, twitchier. He'd start disappearing into the bathroom for like an hour at a time with his phone. At first, I thought he was just being gross, guy stuff. But one night, after he passed out drunk on the couch, I checked his phone. I know, bad girlfriend move. But listen, I was worried. That's when I saw it. A weird app I'd never seen before. It wasn't even labeled normally. It just looked like a black square with a red line across it. No name. Nothing. I clicked it, and it opened into some kind of dark forum. The font was jagged, glitchy looking, like something out of a horror game. Posts titled stuff like, How to Borrow a Soul, Real Results. Need a vessel? Trade here. The Harvest Market, new bodies available. I slammed the phone shut so fast I thought I cracked it. I told myself it had to be a fake app, a joke, an ARG thing. He's always messing with weird stuff online, right? That's just Caleb. But then, the sleep talking started. The first time, it was about a week later. We were knocked out after binging horror movies, Taco Bell wrappers still all over the coffee table. At like 3 a.m., I heard him whispering. At first it was just mumbling, random stuff. Then it got clearer. He said, "Thank you for your body." Slow, slurred, almost grateful. I sat up, heart pounding, staring at him. His eyes were still closed. I thought maybe it was a dream. Sleep talking happens, right? But then it happened again, the next night, and the night after that. Every time, he'd say the same thing. "Thank you for your body." Sometimes he'd add, "She won't even notice," or "It's already begun." I was freaking out. I started recording it on my phone because I thought maybe I was losing it. Maybe it was stress. Work was crazy. Life was weird. Caleb was acting off. I needed proof I wasn't crazy. When I played it back, it was all there, clear as day. His voice, but not just his voice. Sometimes under his breathing, it sounded like there was another voice whispering with him. A wet, raspy voice. I know it sounds insane, but it gets worse. The next day, I noticed bruises on my arms, like fingerprints, big, dark ones. I hadn't fallen. I hadn't been grabbed. At least, I didn't remember anything happening. When I asked Caleb about it, he just shrugged and said, "Maybe you're sleepwalking. Happens to people all the time." Sleepwalking? Since when? I'd never done that in my life. I started getting paranoid. Like, next level paranoid. I covered up the webcam on my laptop, started sleeping with a knife under my pillow, downloaded one of those cheap $15 Amazon cameras to record the bedroom at night. I told myself it was probably nothing, probably stress, probably just coincidence. But the footage I got that night, I wish I never watched it. So, about that footage, when I tell you I almost threw up watching it, I'm not exaggerating. It was around 2:56 a.m. when Caleb suddenly sat up. Not like normal, not like when you're half asleep and adjusting your pillow. He shot up, like his spine had a string pulling it straight into the air. His head twisted slowly toward the camera. Not his body, just his neck, like he was on some kind of sick puppet string. His eyes were open, but they weren't Caleb's eyes. I don't know how else to explain it. They were empty, like staring into two little black holes. He sat there for maybe 2 minutes, just staring dead on into the lens. And then he smiled. Not the way you smile when you're happy. It was wide, too wide, like his cheeks were about to split open, teeth clenched, gums showing. It looked painful. Then, and this part, I almost can't even type this without feeling like I'm gonna cry. He crawled out of bed on all fours, backwards, like a spider. His arms twisted at weird angles, making these sick, popping sounds with every movement. He crawled over to me. I was still dead asleep, totally unaware, lying there with my mouth slightly open like an idiot. He got inches from my face, and for a second, he just hovered there, breathing so shallow, it didn't even move the air. Then, in this slow, deliberate way, he leaned down and sniffed me. Not like a joke. It was animalistic. Long, slow inhales along my neck, my hair, my mouth, like he was savoring me. When I woke up the next morning, I had no memory of it. No bruises, no bites, nothing. The only proof it even happened was that stupid Amazon cam footage burning a hole in my brain. I was ready to call the cops right then and there. But what was I gonna say? Hi, yeah, my boyfriend's possessed by some dark web demon, and he crawled around like a spider at 3 a.m. They'd laugh me out of the precinct, or worse, lock me up. Over the next week, it got worse. I started finding weird things in the apartment. Tiny piles of what looked like teeth behind the couch cushions. A dead bird in the bathtub one morning, with its wings ripped clean off, and a strip of paper tied to its leg that said, "Exchange complete." My doorbell would ring at 3:33 a.m. exactly every night. When I checked the Ring camera, there'd be nobody there, except once. One time, the feed glitched just for a second, and in that split second, I saw something standing at the edge of the street. It looked like Caleb, but not really. It was like Caleb if someone made a wax figure of him and left it melting in the sun for 3 days, skin sagging, arms way too long, fingers twitching like spider legs. I tried confronting him. Big mistake. One night after dinner, when we were just scrolling on our phones, I casually said, "Hey, you been doing anything weird online lately?" He didn't even look up. He just said, "I made a deal." Chill. Totally normal response. Right. I asked what kind of deal, and he finally looked at me. But it wasn't him. It was like something was wearing his skin, but didn't know how to smile right. His face stretched into that same painful grin, and he said, "I just needed a new life. A better one. It's not personal, babe. You're just collateral." I didn't sleep at all that night. The next few days were hell. Random texts started flooding my phone, all from random, unlisted numbers. Messages like, "Your body looks perfect. We're almost ready for you. Harvest day is coming." One night, I woke up to the feeling of fingers brushing my hair. Not Caleb. He was snoring on the couch. When I whipped around, there was nobody there. But when I checked the mirror in the bathroom, there were scratches across my scalp, like claw marks. Another night, I found a note taped to my forehead when I woke up. It said, "Do not resist. The vessel is in transit." I couldn't do it anymore. I packed my stuff in a frenzy and decided to crash at my friend Chloe's place downtown. She's one of those friends that'll ride or die, no questions asked. I booked an Uber at 2 a.m. because I didn't even want to wait until morning. I practically sprinted down the stairs of my building, suitcase clattering behind me. The Uber driver, this tired-looking guy who barely said 2 words, kept checking me out in the mirror. At first, I thought he was being creepy, but then I caught what he was actually doing. He was staring at my neck. I reached up and felt something sticky. When I looked at my hand, it was blood. There was a huge, ragged gash along the side of my neck, not deep enough to kill me, but deep enough that I should have felt it. When I finally got to Chloe's place, she freaked out immediately, called an ambulance, made me promise to tell the cops everything. But when I showed the police the footage from the Amazon camera, when I showed them the bruises, the teeth piles, the notes, they just looked at me like I was crazy. One cop literally said, "Maybe you just had a bad breakup and you're overreacting." They didn't even talk to Caleb. That was a month ago. I haven't gone back to my apartment since, but that didn't stop it. Now, at exactly 3:33 a.m. every night, no matter where I am, whether I'm staying at a friend's, crashing at a hotel, even when I flew out to my mom's place in Arizona, I wake up to the sound of scratching inside the walls, inside the mirrors, inside me. And sometimes, just before I drift off into sleep, I swear I can hear Caleb's voice whispering, "Thank you for your body." After everything that happened at Chloe's place, I thought, stupidly, that it was over. New phone, new number. Blocked Caleb everywhere. Deleted all my socials. Wiped my name off every online database I could think of. Even bought one of those sketchy burner phones you see drug dealers use in Netflix shows. None of it mattered. The night I got the new phone, I powered it up for the first time, heart pounding, expecting just a blank home screen. Instead, there was already a voicemail waiting. It was exactly 33 seconds long. No words, just breathing. Heavy, wet breathing, like someone was drooling into the speaker. At exactly 0:30 seconds in, right before the line cut off, there was a whisper. So faint, I had to crank the volume all the way up just to catch it. "We already have you." I started noticing changes in myself after that. First, it was little things. My eyes would sting randomly, like I had soap in them. Sometimes my hands would tremble, even when I wasn't cold or scared. I figured panic attacks, PTSD, totally normal. But then I started losing time, like hours. I'd wake up standing outside random places with no memory of how I got there. Once I woke up standing outside an abandoned Toys R Us 2 towns over, barefoot, in just a hoodie and leggings, covered in mud. Another time, I came to in a McDonald's bathroom, kneeling over the sink, my hands covered in black sludge, not mud, not dirt. Sludge. Thick, tar-like stuff that smelled like burning hair and rotten meat. There was a message written on the mirror in what looked like blood, but it was too dark, almost black. It said, "Feed the skin." I went back to Chloe's place after that, but she was different. She barely spoke to me, wouldn't make eye contact. She kept glancing at me when she thought I wasn't looking, her face twisted in this look of pity, or maybe fear. I asked what was wrong, and she just said, "They're inside you now." No explanation, no follow-up. The next morning, she was gone. No note, no text. All her stuff was still there. Her laptop, her clothes, even her wallet. But she was just gone. The front door was wide open, no signs of a struggle. Like she just walked out into the night and disappeared. After that, everything spiraled. One night, I woke up to find my own reflection missing from the bathroom mirror. I could see the room behind me, the sink, the cracked tile, the dripping faucet, but not me. Just an empty space where I should have been standing. I remember touching my face, shaking, trying to figure out if I was dreaming. I pressed my palm flat against the glass, and something else pressed back. Not my hand. Something colder, bigger, with too many fingers. Another night, I started coughing so hard, I thought my lungs were going to come out. I ran to the sink and hacked up a long black string. At first, I thought it was a worm, but when I looked closer, it wasn't moving. It was hair, human hair, long strands of greasy black hair, knotted together like some kind of parasite. When I pulled it all out, gagging, sobbing, I noticed something at the very end. A tiny shard of bone, still wet, like it had been pulled straight from a fresh corpse. I tried going to a hospital, tried telling them something was wrong with me. Maybe a parasite, maybe a breakdown. Anything. Anything normal would have been better than what was happening. They kept me overnight for observation. At 3:33 a.m., my hospital room went ice cold. The machine started glitching out, beeping random patterns. I tried to call for a nurse, but the call button didn't work. Nothing worked. And then I saw it, in the reflection of the black TV screen across from my bed. Caleb, standing at the foot of the bed. Only it wasn't Caleb anymore. His skin was loose, hanging off his bones like wet paper. His jaw had been dislocated, hanging open at a horrible angle. There were deep black holes where his eyes should have been. He opened his mouth wider and wider until it wasn't even human anymore, just a giant gaping maw stretching down to his chest. Out of his mouth crawled something made of arms, no face, no eyes, just limbs, hundreds of them, scrabbling over each other, scraping along the tile with sick, wet slaps. I screamed so hard, my throat bled, but no one came. When I blinked, it was gone. The next morning, the hospital staff discharged me without explanation, like they couldn't get me out fast enough. I noticed that all the nurses avoided looking me in the eyes, like just seeing me made their skin crawl. That's when I found the carvings. One night, after another blackout, I woke up and found dozens of tiny cuts all over my body. Something had been carving symbols into my skin while I slept. Not random cuts, symbols, circles inside triangles, twisted, almost runic letters, an X with 2 dots over it, like eyes. They healed too fast to be normal. The next morning, they were just raised scars, permanent, a brand. The worst part? I wasn't even scared anymore. Not really. I felt calm. I started hearing a voice inside my head, soft, warm, almost motherly. It told me things, where to go, who to follow, who to hurt. One night, the voice told me to go to a nearby park. It was 4 a.m., freezing cold, the streets empty except for an occasional Uber Eats biker passing by. I stood under a broken streetlight by the swings and waited. After maybe 20 minutes, a guy jogged by, mid-30s, normal looking, just out for a late night run. The voice said, "Take his breath." I don't remember doing it. All I remember is standing over his body, my hands bloody, his mouth frozen open in a silent scream. No witnesses, no cameras, just me, the dark, and the feeling of something smiling inside me. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, it's gotten easier. The voice doesn't even have to ask anymore. I can feel what it wants, what it needs, and every time I give it what it wants, my body feels stronger, faster, less human. I don't know if Caleb's still alive somewhere, or if he's just a hollow shell now. I don't really care, because the truth is, I'm not Julia anymore. I don't even remember what it feels like to be scared. The thing inside me, it's hungry. And every day, it gets a little harder to pretend to be normal, a little harder to hide the cracks. If you see me on the street, if you see a girl who looks just a little too perfect, a little too still, don't smile, don't wave, don't even look. Because if I see you, if it sees you, you're already gone. There's something nobody tells you about being hollowed out. At first, you notice the little things. Your voice sounds wrong in your own ears. Your reflection lags just half a second behind your movements. Food stops tasting like anything but ash. You lose the ability to dream. And then it spreads. Until you aren't walking, you're wearing yourself like a costume. Until your smile feels like a knife cutting into your cheeks every time you fake it. Until you're just a sack of meat stitched together by whatever lives inside. The voice doesn't speak anymore. It doesn't have to. We're one now. After the park. After the runner. I couldn't stay in the city anymore. Too many cameras. Too many eyes. Too many fragile, twitching bodies walking around begging to be ripped apart. So I left. Took the Greyhound south. No ticket under my real name. No ID. No phone. Just a duffel bag full of stolen clothes and a wallet that wasn't mine. I remember staring out the bus window for hours, watching the landscape rot into nothingness. Gray skies, rotten trees, billboards peeling away into skeletons. I wasn't going anywhere real, just running until the meat wore out. Somewhere around Tennessee, I met others. I don't know what you'd call them. Other vessels, other broken things. They found me at a 24-hour gas station off Interstate 40, middle of nowhere. Not even a real town, just an endless flatland of dead fields and buzzing streetlights. I was in the bathroom, washing dry blood off my hands. Not mine, never mine anymore. When I looked up and saw them, 3 of them, standing behind me, 2 women and a man, each one wrong in different ways. The man was too tall, hunched under the flickering lights, his head cocked at an unnatural angle, like a broken marionette. One of the women had hands with way too many fingers, long, bone-thin, twitching as she breathed. The last woman, God, her face wasn't a face at all, just a smooth sheet of flesh stretched tight where her features should have been. No eyes, no mouth, no nose, but I could feel her seeing me anyway, drilling through my skin with that blank, seething pressure. They didn't speak. Not with words, anyway. They just nodded. An invitation. And I followed. Because deep down, I knew this was what the ritual wanted. Not just one body, not just one soul, a flock, a collection, a harvest. They led me to a place, not a building, not a town, nothing you could find on Google Maps. An abandoned amusement park, swallowed up by trees and fog. The sign out front had rotted away, but you could still make out the letters. Paradise Trails, where dreams come true. The rides were nothing but rusted skeletons. The carousel had been gutted, horses hanging from the chains, their bodies stripped to splinters. The Ferris wheel creaked in the dead wind, half collapsed, cabin doors banging like dying hearts. And in the very center of it all, a pit, massive, black, breathing. The others knelt around it, heads bowed low, their bodies spasming in time with the heaving ground. I stood there, feeling something churn inside me, something hot and wet and feral, something that had been waiting for this moment. The pit pulsed, and from it, they crawled out. The collectors. I can't even describe them in human words. Long bodies, stitched together from hundreds of others. Faces sewn where torso should have been. Legs sprouting at random angles. Eyes. Hundreds of them, blinking wetly from every available surface. Each collector dragged chains behind them, clinking and rattling, hooks glinting in the low, sickly light. They didn't come for the others. They came for me. Chains wrapped around my ankles, my wrists, my throat. Not pulling me down. Not yet. Not to kill me. To bind me. To make me theirs. I should have been terrified. I should have fought. But instead I laughed. I laughed until my ribs felt like they were going to snap open and spill me out onto the cracked pavement, because the voice inside me wasn't whispering anymore. It was singing. They branded me that night, dragged something jagged and burning across my spine, carving symbols so deep into the bone that I could smell my own marrow roasting. I didn't scream. I smiled, because I understood now. The ritual Caleb performed, the one he thought was just some dark web gimmick to get a better life, wasn't a trade. It wasn't one vessel for one spirit. It was an infestation, a seed planted inside me, growing, spreading, infecting. Every time I took a life, every time I obeyed the voice, it fed the seed, until it wasn't just Caleb's debt, it was mine, and it would never, ever be enough. After the branding, they left me alone in the center of the park. No explanation, no ceremony, just the soft, shuddering sound of the pit breathing. I woke up hours later with a new hunger gnawing at my stomach, not for food, for pieces, for souls. I started traveling from city to city, New York, Atlanta, Dallas, Los Angeles, always moving, always hunting, but not like a serial killer. No messy trails, no bodies left behind. The collectors showed me how to take just what I needed. A memory here, a voice there, a heartbeat. They still look alive after. They walk, they talk, they smile. But inside, they're hollow, vacant, waiting for the next signal, waiting for me. Sometimes I see Caleb's face in the crowds, distorted, broken, mouthing the same words over and over. Thank you for your body. But it's not gratitude anymore. It's a warning, because I'm not just harvesting for them anymore. I'm building something bigger, a new body, a vessel big enough to hold them all the collectors, all the broken things, all the hollowed souls. And when it's ready, when the body is complete, the pit will open and nothing will survive. The worst part wasn't the blood. It wasn't the hollow people. It wasn't the endless voice twisting my thoughts into ribbons. It was realizing I wasn't special. There are thousands of us. Thousands who got tricked. Thousands who made deals on the dark web. Thousands who were nothing but soil for seeds like mine. And the pit was just one of many. Every city has one, hidden beneath malls, under abandoned Walmarts, rotting beneath the foundations of Starbucks and McDonald's, waiting, breathing, growing. The last piece of the ritual wasn't to hollow out the body, it was to hollow out the world. The final phase began 2 nights ago. It started with a noise, a wet, dragging sound that vibrated through the air like 1,000 bodies crawling across broken glass. I was staying in an abandoned hospital outside Detroit, surrounded by rusted beds and peeling wallpaper that looked like burnt skin. The wall started bleeding. I don't mean that poetically. Literal blood. Thick, black-red streams oozing from cracks and seams, pooling on the floor. In the blood, reflections moved. Faces, hands, teeth. Things grinning at me. Things waiting. The first harbinger arrived around 2 a.m. It looked like a man, tall, dressed in a ripped hoodie, jeans hanging off its hips. But when it got closer, I saw the truth. Its skin wasn't real. It was stitched together from hundreds of smaller skins, layered and patched like a human quilt. Eyes stared out from random places, from its neck, its knees, its palms, each one blinking independently, weeping thick yellow tears. It knelt at my feet and whispered, "It is time." I followed it down to the basement, through halls lined with rotted hospital beds, past broken wheelchairs frozen in rust. The closer we got to the pit, the louder the singing became. Not words, just voices, hundreds, maybe thousands, humming a low, endless note. The sound of a grave being dug in the sky. The collectors were waiting. They formed a circle around the pit, their bodies twitching, spasming, splitting open and stitching back together with every breath. The pit wasn't just breathing now. It was opening, splitting wider, black liquid pouring out in rivers, eating away the concrete. And inside, God. Inside were things that had never belonged on this side of the veil. Limbs that bent the wrong way. Mouths inside mouths inside mouths. Slick, writhing bodies that pulsed with a heartbeat that wasn't mine, wasn't human, wasn't anything meant to exist. The ritual demanded a final offering, a body, a soul, a willing vessel, me. But not just me, all of me. I knelt by the edge of the pit and felt something grip the back of my skull. Not a hand, but something colder, heavier, something made of teeth and hunger. I didn't fight. I offered. The pain was beyond anything language could capture. I felt every molecule of my body pulled apart, unwound like thread from a rotting spool. Not death. Worse. Unmaking. They peeled away my memories first. I forgot my name. Forgot my mother's voice. Forgot the smell of the city after rain. Next, they took my face. Not just physically. They scraped it from reality. Erased every photo, every memory anyone had of me. Like I never existed. Like I was just a glitch in the world's programming. Finally patched out. But the body stayed. Stitched together by the collectors. Worn like a marionette. A meat puppet for something older and hungrier than anyone could imagine. I watch now, trapped somewhere deep inside my own rotting mind, as they use my body to walk among you, smile at you, hold your hand, whisper in your ear. They're not rushing, they're patient. They move slow, city to city, crowd to crowd, harvesting, feeding, spreading the seeds, because they know something you don't. The world ended months ago. you just haven't noticed yet. The Starbucks you go to every morning, the barista with the too wide smile who never blinks, gone. The guy at the McDonald's drive-thru with hands too long for his sleeves, gone. The little kid staring blankly at you from the playground swings, whispering words you can't quite hear, gone. All hollowed out, all waiting, all wearing their skins until the final veil falls and the collectors stop hiding. I hear them sometimes when the body sleeps, the real body, the one they're building out of all the stolen pieces. It's almost ready. It's already breathing, already dreaming. And when it wakes, there will be no more hiding, no more pretending, no more walls between worlds. Just the endless pit, just the endless harvest. You might think you're safe. You might think locking your doors and staying inside will protect you. But the truth is, they're already inside. They're behind your mirror, inside your walls, underneath your skin, waiting for the moment you blink, waiting for the moment you slip, waiting for the moment you hear a whisper in the dark saying, "Thank you for your body."